Chapter 161, Eavesdropping. Following the path mentioned by Coach Kinsuke, Hiro arrived at the restroom. Looking to his left, he found women's restroom, and to his right was men's restroom. I shouldn't have chugged that whole damn bottle of water. Mumbling such, Hiro pushed open the door of men's restroom. Equipped with modern restroom accessories and decorated with marbles, the restroom in front of him was glowing while reflecting the light coming from the LED light bulbs. Orderly organized and neatly cleaned, Aomori's restroom looked a lot better than any other restroom he had seen thus far. However, he had only one business that time around, and that was to relieve himself. Thus, without wasting any time, he hurriedly rushed towards one of the compartments to relieve himself. Their first-choice goalkeeper is injured, and if we just stop their number 10, I think we can win today's match without much difficulty. While Hiro was relieving himself, he heard some people talking about the match which was going to take place in a moment. Even with their first-choice keeper, we'll still win the match. After all, we have Senior Takumi in our team. With his speed, I doubt if any player of Kawasaki could even reach him. Haha, I pity that number 10. With Senior Takudo and Senior Tora tailing him like a shadow, he'll have no space to display his performance in today's match. Ha-ha-ya. I wonder what kind of expression that poor boy will make at today's match after getting squeezed between two giants of our club. Gossiping freely, they were openly revealing their tactics without thinking of the consequences. Look at these fools revealing their tactics without even thinking that someone might hear them. Confident is good, but not overconfident, you fools, thought Hiro while listening to their conversation. Listening to the voice coming from outside, Hiro could tell that there were two of them. He wasn't intending to pry their conversation. After all, he was only there to relieve his flooded bladder. But since those two fools outside were talking loudly while Hiro was relieving his bladder, he had no choice but to hear their conversation. Now what should I do? I've finished my business, and those two fools are still out there. If I go out right now, and they find me, then they may accuse me of eavesdropping, thought Hiro while staring at the doorknob. Let's stay here until they leave. Hiro decided to stay put until their departure. Those two fools out there took quite a while to leave the restroom, and while they were on their business, they almost revealed their entire tactics. And even after their departure, Hiro stayed still at his position for a while, waiting to see if they were going to return back. However, those two never came back, and only after confirming that they had really left, Hiro walked out of his compartment. Cautiously looking at the door, he double-checked their presence. You fools! You shouldn't go around telling your tactics. Coming out of the restroom, Hiro scoffed while looking at the hallway in front of him. Just as he was about to enter the locker room, Coach Kinsuke blocked his was and started questioning him. What took you so long? Thinking of an excuse, Hiro answered confidently. I had an upset stomach, sir. Upon hearing his answer, Coach Kinsuke made a worried face and hurriedly asked him, why didn't you tell me about that earlier? I would have gotten you some medicine. Should we substitute you? Letting out a subtle smile, Hiro looked Coach Kinsuke in the eyes and tried to assure him, don't worry, sir. It's nothing serious. I just haven't taken a dump in the morning today. Coach Kinsuke then heaved a short sigh of relief and answered, thank God. But don't hesitate to inform us if you ever feel discomfort in your body, okay? Faking a pretentious smile on his face, Hiro nodded his head while trying to look all innocent. Hiro then answered in his pretentious sweet tone, I will, sir. And while the two of them were talking, Manager Makoto arrived at the locker room. Hiro, why are you standing outside? Questioned Manager Makoto after approaching Hiro. Engrossed in trying to deceive Coach Kinsuke into believing his made-up story, Hiro didn't notice the presence of Manager Makoto until he heard his voice. Thus, upon hearing the voice of Manager Makoto suddenly coming from behind him, Hiro got startled a bit. Oh, sir, I was just coming from the restroom. Startling, answered Hiro. He's right. He was just coming back from restroom. Coach Kinsuke, who was standing beside him, vouched for him. Is that so? Murmuring such, Manager Makoto shrugged and gestured him to get back to his position. Hiro then hurriedly walked inside the locker room. Noticing Hiro entering the locker room after disappearing for quite a while, Tatsuki jokingly questioned him, did you upset your stomach because of the pressure? However, he paused midway before he could finish his sentence after noticing the sight of Manager Makoto entering the locker room. Just as Manager Makoto entered the locker room, he ordered everybody to gather around for one last strategic meeting before the start of the game. Everybody gather around. Hearing his command, everybody present in the locker room stood up and began to gather around Manager Makoto. And as everybody gathered around, Manager Makoto started to talk. We've already talked about our strategy this morning, but for one last time, I'll repeat our strategy again. Saying such, Manager Makoto began to revise their strategy. It'll take Tomoyasu some months to recover. Fortunately, he hasn't broken any bone and the injury isn't very severe. So, as I mentioned before, Shun will be goalkeeping until his arrival. Also, as everyone already knows that our opponents likes to play fast counterattacking game, so always be on alert. While speaking such, Manager Makoto suddenly turned towards the forwards. However, forwards, don't let those thoughts disrupt your attacks. Just trust your teammates and attack freely like you've always done. They're a tricky opponent, but not unbeatable. In fact, with our strategy and individual players, I believe that we can easily win the game with a score of 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, or even more. In terms of individual talent, you surpass them. However, collectively, they play a better football, so we shouldn't get arrogant and take them lightly. Remember, teamwork makes dream work. So what you all need to do is trust yourself, trust your teammates, and play like you've always played without any worries. After revising the strategy, Manager Makoto gave them few words of encouragement. Take the ball, pass the ball, position yourself in a suitable spot to receive the ball, and whenever you see an opening, don't hesitate to shoot the ball. Saying such, Manager Makoto stretched his hand in front. After that, all the players followed the example of Manager Makoto and began to place their hands atop Manager Makoto's hand. Looking each other in the eye, they then raised their hand above their head while shouting, "Go Kawasaki." Chapter 162, Kawasaki versus Aomori. While preparing to make their entrance, standing side by side, players of both the teams were lined up in a queue inside the tunnel. One group was dressed in light yellow, while the other was dressed in green. Plain light yellow with few dark yellow colored diagonal stripe lines printed at the front part, Kawasaki's away jersey was radiating a sensation of warmth. On the other hand, Aomori's jersey was a combination of light and dark green, designed like a mosaic painting by making use of light and dark green colors. Their home jerseys, which resembled the Mother Nature itself, looked rather appealing to eyes. While awaiting for the announcement of the commentator, some players from both the teams were gossiping and joking with their teammates. However, most of the players remained silent. Their eyes, looking at the entrance of the tunnel, looked rather focused, as if they were strategizing plays inside their head, while their attentive posture made it look like they were some kind of soldiers awaiting for their superior's order. Among such players, one was Hiro. Standing behind 5 players, Hiro was blankly staring at the light coming from the entrance of the tunnel while contemplating about the earlier conversation he had heard in the restroom. Did those 2 fools accidentally reveal their strategy? Or did they intentionally reveal their tactics to deceive me? Thinking about the earlier conversation he heard at the restroom, Hiro was trying to discern whether to trust the information he had heard earlier or not. Unable to decide, Hiro shrugged to free his mind from such thoughts. Since I haven't told anybody about it, and our strategy hasn't changed a bit, there's no point in thinking too much. I'll just play how I used to play. Overall, the ambience inside the dimly lit tunnel was somewhat heavy, with players of both teams unwilling to talk to the players of opposing team. Hello everyone, I'm Kenjiro Suzuki, the host who will be hosting today's match. Battling for the top spot, East League's 2 giants will be competing among themselves. The away team, Kawasaki Frontale, who have attained an overwhelming victory in both their matches, are in a 2-match winning streak and are also at the top of the table because of goal difference. And I'm sure the host, Aomori, who are tied with them in terms of points, will be looking forward to dethrone them from the top spot in today's match. So, without any further ado, let's welcome the players of both the team with big round of applause. Saying such, commentator gave the green light to the players standing inside the tunnel to make their way towards the pitch. Clap, clap. Clap. As the players began to make their way towards the pitch, irregular sounds of applause started to reverberate all over the stadium. While few people present in the stand were hooting for the players, most of the people in the stand remained rather silent. As compared to the ambience in Kawasaki's stadium, Hiro found Aomori's stadium rather dull. Not even January 10th th of the sound of cheers could be heard in Aomori's stadium. And even those few people in the stand who were cheering at that time were Kawasaki's fan. Glancing at the stand, Hiro thought they could still cheer in a low voice. What's with those gloomy faces? Are they here to watch a musical opera or a football match? While thinking such, Hiro shifted his gaze towards the sky. With more than 60% of the sky covered with dark clouds, it seemed like it could rain at any time. Looking at the sky, Hiro smiled a bit and whispered softly, "Gloomy weather and gloomy fans, what a perfect match." Despite preferring silence most of the time, Hiro was just like any other player who liked to perform in a stadium packed with fans. He liked to hear the cheers of the fans. To him, cheers of the fans were similar to the songs he liked to hear. As there is a saying that fans are the 12th player of any team. The louder their cheers and support, the better the chance that their team can perform well. After that, captains of both the team stepped in front for coin toss. While the coin toss was taking place, Hiro released a sigh of relief and mumbled, "Well, I guess we have one less thing to worry about. At least we can play freely without concerning ourselves with the taunts of opposing fans." After all, playing in a packed-away stadium is a nightmare, even for the top-level players. And even Cristiano Ronaldo once had quoted that he was intimidated by the fans present in the Anfield. And just like Anfield, it's almost the same case with every other stadium packed with a supportive home crowd. It's always nerve-wracking to play in a packed stadium filled with supportive fans of opposing team. However, for a player, it's even more disheartening to play in an empty stadium or to play in a dull stadium. Kawasaki has won the coin toss and have chosen the right side of the field, which means Aomori will be initiating the kickoff. While the commentator was announcing the result of the coin toss, players of both the team lined up in queue and began to exchange handshakes with each other before starting the match. One by one, Hiro shook hands with the opposing player without paying much attention to any of them. And while shaking hand with the opponent players, suddenly one of the player of Aomori grabbed his hand tightly. Although he didn't react, he was quite pissed by the player's behavior. Shifting his gaze towards the player who was gripping his hand, he found that player was smiling, looking all smug. Broad, wide shoulders and a finely styled short black hair. He was smiling while gripping Hiro's hands. And just as Hiro was about to ask him to leave his hand, the player in front spoke while smiling creepily, "Takuto Kurabayashi, remember me. I'm your appointed bodyguard in the game." Glaring at the player who was grabbing his hand, Hiro jerked his hand and released his hand from his grip. Without saying anything, Hiro then moved forward as if nothing happened. Chapter 163, Kawasaki vs. Aomori 2. While Hiro was moving forward without paying any attention to Takuto, Takuto was still smiling while moving forward. Satisfied with Hiro's reaction, Takuto looked all smug. Although he couldn't see any changes in Hiro's facial expression, Takuto could still tell that Hiro was pissed by his earlier actions, which was exactly what he was planning on doing for the whole game. Sticking as close as he can with Hiro, Takuto was planning to follow Hiro everywhere like his shadow once the match begun. And for that purpose, his coach had intentionally positioned himself in a defensive midfield position in that match instead of a center back, which was his original role. Just then, as they finished shaking hands with each other, Hiro heard the sound of notification. Ding! New quest unlocked. Quest info. Achieve a 9 or more rating in the match. Quest reward. 1 golden ticket. Failure. Random deduction of stat. Note: the quest is mandatory, thus you cannot skip the quest. Although the quest came out of random, Hiro wasn't surprised by the notification of the quest. Instead, he was confused by the description of the quest. Who will rate me, though? Confusedly asked Hiro while pondering how he'll get rated. Since unlike professional matches, there wasn't any organization or companies such as SofaScore, ESPN, who calculated the rating of the players in the league where Hiro was playing currently. You'll be rated by the system, and you'll be rated on the basis of your contribution, goals, assist, accurate passes, successful dribbles, chance creation, and several other stuffs. Not only did the system answer his question, the system also provided him detailed information on how he was going to be rated by the system. Upon hearing the response of the system, his doubts vanished away, just like how powdered salt would vanish once it gets into contact with water. And now that his doubts were cleared, he began to walk towards his position. Positioning himself in his attacking midfield position, Hiro looked in front of him. Looking around the field, Hiro began to analyze the position of his opponents. 4 defenders, 2 defensive midfielders, 3 attacking midfielders, and a sole striker. So they're playing in 4-2-3-1 formation. Thought Hiro after analyzing the position of the opposing players. And that guy from earlier is playing defensive mid. Mumbled Hiro, sounding a bit surprised. While studying about the opposing players, Hiro had learnt that the guy who tried to provoke him earlier was a center back. Thus, he was a little surprised to see him in defensive midfield position instead of his original place. While he was thinking of such things, referee took a peek at his watch and blew the whistle. Beep! Passing the ball back, Takumi initiated the kickoff. Calculating his moves, Hiro pushed forward to support Tatsuki, who was pressing for the ball. Without breaking any sweat, Aomori's players began to pass the ball among themselves inside their own half. While trying to draw out the opposing player to their side of the pitch, they kept hold of the ball. Along with the player named Takudo Kurabayashi, another player Yushir who was playing as the center midfielder was also tailing him. Although unlike Takudo who was man-marking him, Yushir maintained his distance with Hiro, and if one were to see them from afar, they could hardly notice that Yushir was also tailing him. Not too far yet not too close. Yushir was always lingering around Hiro at a distance where he could catch Hiro easily by sprinting for a while. Occasionally Hiro could feel the gaze of another player named Tora, who was playing as a center defender in that match. And unlike the two of them, Tora stayed glued to his position. However, Hiro could tell that even that guy named Tora was watching his moves. Just like those 2 morons mentioned, I am indeed getting marked by those guys named Takudo and Tora. Thought Hiro while pretending to act like he was getting troubled by them marking him. While Hiro was acting like he was troubled, those 3 who were marking Hiro looked rather satiated. So those 2 morons did actually spill their tactics accidentally. Thinking such, Hiro let out a subtle smile. Cautiously waiting for opportunity, Hiro continued to play the role of the victim. Seems like they're targeting Hiro. While making a worried face, Akihiro mumbled while biting his lips. Hiro's acting was so perfect that he was even managing to trick his own teammates. You should probably ask your coach to get you substituted. After all, you won't get past me today. Ha ha. Looking all arrogant, Takudo suggested Hiro to ask his manager to take him out of the game while smiling. Tisich clicking his tongue, Hiro pretended to act like he was trying to break free. Hiro then began to fall back to make Takudo believe that Hiro was getting restless and his strategy was working on him. I'll follow you wherever you go. After all, our coach has permitted me to play freely today. Smiling, Takudo began to chase Hiro. And while he was chasing Hiro, a space created in the spot where he was positioned. However, players of Aomori were thoroughly instructed as the center back and other defensive midfielder quickly covered the space left open by Takudo. And that was what Hiro wanted to test as well. He wanted to see whether Takudo's other teammates will fill in his gap or not. Thus, for some while Hiro continued to act like he was getting restless. Running all over the pitch, he tested different things. They're playing dirty by marking him. That number 4 has stuck to him like a parasite since the beginning of the match. Spoke one of the fans of Kawasaki. Hiro's acting was so perfect that he was even managing to deceive his supporters. And finally, after confirming all of his doubts, Hiro was now ready to take his actions. Although Aomori's team did attack them few times while he was testing his doubts. Fortunately, the score was still tied with both teams failing to register any goals. At 33rd minute of the match, Hiro sensed an opportunity. Thinking that they were in control and they had managed to neutralize the plays of the ace of Kawasaki, the opposing team was showing signs of letting down their guards. Yusher, who was one of the players who was marking Hiro, passed the ball back to one of their center back to attract the players of Kawasaki so that they could initiate a counterattack. But just as Yusher passed the ball back, Hiro, making use of his skill, lightning steps, sprinted towards the direction of ball. The defender who was expecting for the ball was caught off guard. Even Takuto, who was man-marking Hiro, wasn't expecting Hiro to sprint all of a sudden. Chapter 164, Kawasaki versus Aomori 3. After lying low for almost 30 minutes, Hiro made his move for the first time in the game at the 33rd minute of the match. Making use of his skill, lightning steps, Hiro accelerated towards the ball when almost every single opposing players had lowered their guards. The opposing defender who was waiting for the ball was startled by the sight of Hiro, who was rushing towards him, out of nowhere. Within few breaths, Hiro managed to reach the ball. Intercepting the pass, Hiro then initiated a sudden counterattack. Tora and the other defender, both of them reacted quickly and rushed forward to block Hiro's shooting course. Having seen Hiro's previous matches, both of those two opposing defenders were aware of Hiro's shooting capability. Warily, Aomori's keeper widened his legs while anticipating a shot from Hiro. Having been told by his coach to be on an alert every time when Hiro was in possession of the ball, Aomori's keeper was extra sensitive at that time around. Just when you think that you've got him cornered, he shatters your expectations and breaks out of your clutch. Out of nowhere, Hiro has reversed the situation of both the teams. A while ago, Aomori was on the attack and Kawasaki was on defense. But right now, Kawasaki is attacking while Aomori are forced to defend. As if Hiro was challenging both of the defenders of Aomori. After noticing them rushing towards him, instead of slowing down, he kept his pace and rushed towards them without showing any signs of hesitation. If we let him go, he'll score for sure. So we must stop him, even if it means fouling him. Gritting his teeth, Tora thought while rushing towards Hiro. Upon approaching close to Hiro, Tora slid down as he performed a sliding tackle. But just as he slid down, Hiro lightly kicked the ball to his left, where Tatsuki was making his run to support Hiro. Tatsuki then, without trapping the ball, played a one-touch through pass to Hiro, who was still rushing forward after jumping over the legs of Tora. This duo makes everything seem so simple. A precise pass by Tatsuki at a precise time. Noticing the lethal through ball, Aomori's keeper reacted quickly by leaving his position. While rushing towards the ball, he could tell that he can't reach the ball before Hiro. Thus, after approaching half close to the ball, he slid down to block the ball with his body. However, contrary to his expectation, Hiro lofted the ball above his body and scored a goal by executing a cheeky chip above him. Go all goal! Golo all! Although few, fans of Kawasaki spared no effort to convey their feeling of happiness. Cheering from the bottom of their heart, they began to celebrate Hiro's goal while still following the rule of the ground. Cheering or yelling loudly is prohibited. Running towards Tatsuki to celebrate his goal and to thank Tatsuki for providing him the assist, Hiro leaped towards Tatsuki as he reached close to him. Embracing Tatsuki, Hiro let out a victorious roar, yeah, while throwing his fist in the air. Hiro's teammates soon caught up to him and Tatsuki. All of them then began to celebrate the goal while bumping and jumping atop each other. What a marvelous goal that was! Accelerating like a cheetah, Hiro first interrupted the pass. And while keeping his pace, he rushed forward. Just how did he manage to accelerate that fast in such short amount of time? Also, we can't forget the through pass of Tatsuki. Without his pass, Hiro might not have been able to pull out such an amazing goal. The combination of those two sure is deadly. Cheerfully commentating about the goal Hiro scored in the 33rd minute of the match, commentator praised Hiro and Tatsuki. While Hiro and his teammates were celebrating their goal, Takuto was glaring at Hiro. His eyes bloodshot, his veins popping out, and his fist tightly clenched, Takuto was glaring at Hiro with eyes full of anger. In order to stop Hiro, Tora, who was even prepared to commit a foul, was looking at the direction of his goalpost while thinking about what went wrong. Did I time my tackle wrong? Or was I not rough enough? Thought Tora while thinking about the tackle he performed a moment ago. contemplating about the play which he just witnessed. A middle-aged man, probably in his late 30s, who was dressed in a wind cheater and a track, standing at the sidelines, began to scribble something on a note which he was carrying. Short black hair, which was slicked back neatly with the help of a comb. He had black eyes and square-shaped face. And just as he finished scribbling something, he called out to another middle-aged man seated at the substitution bench. "Coach Hiro, can you come here for a second?" Hurriedly standing from his seat, the man grabbed his note and walked towards the man who called him. "Yes, Manager Masaki?" The man dressed in wind cheater was the manager of Aomori Yamada high school football team. And the other middle-aged man named Yudo was one of the assistant coaches of Aomori Yamada High School. Takudo alone won't be enough to mark him. Perhaps we should change our strategy. Take a look at it and tell me what you think. Pointing at the notebook he was carrying, Masaki suggested a tactic change. As instructed by Masaki, Yudo took a look at Masaki's notebook. After looking at it for a while, Yudo opened his mouth. "Yes, sir. Man marking him will be hard. So I agree with your suggestion on switching into zone marking. Let's place Yushir in between the position of midfielder and defensive midfielder. That way he can focus more on defense. Takumi and the two other right and left attacking midfielders will be enough in the front." Yudo suggested after taking a look at manager Masaki's notebook. Nodding his head, Masaki then began to call one of his players who was close to him. Entrusting him with the responsibility to convey the information to other players, Masaki filled him with the details of the change in tactics. Chapter 165, Kawasaki vs. Aomori 4. Smiling while staring at Hiro, manager Makoto was celebrating the goal scored by Hiro with other players seated at the substitution bench. His eyes filled with joy and his face showing how satisfied he was with Hiro's progress. Makoto couldn't stop himself from praising Hiro for persevering through such rough training session day in and day out without ever complaining. "Sometimes I wonder how can a boy who's only 13 be this good? But then again, I look at you training. Till this date, you've never complained about the intensity of the training. In fact, you've done more than what you've been asked for. I'm sure that the day isn't that far when you'll succeed in the world stage." While mumbling such, manager Makoto's eyes moistened all of a sudden. Feeling the moisture in his eyes, Makoto then gently rubbed his eyes. After celebrating for a while, all the players in the field started to walk back towards their respective position to continue the match. After all, celebrating for a long period of time was considered time wasting, and for that offense, referee could even book the players. Getting to his position, Hiro noticed something off. Although Aomori had made no player changes and they were still playing in the 4-2-3-1 formation, Hiro could tell that their players had shifted their positions slightly. For example, he could tell that Yushir had moved a little back and their right and left midfielders had moved a bit towards the center. "So, they're making some changes, huh?" thought Hiro while analyzing the formation of the opposing team. While he was contemplating, referee blew the whistle and resumed the match. Beep! Dark clouds had almost swallowed the entire sun as it veiled more than 80% of the sky. While the persistent rays of sun was still trying to find its way out the dark clouds, surrounding temperature had dropped drastically. The moderate cold wind which was blowing was making howling noises as it collided with the roof of the stands. Fans were rushing from the open stand towards the part of the stand which was roofed to shelter them from the unavoidable rain. Sticking to their traditional counter-attacking playstyle, Aomori was trying to find the back of Kawasaki's net. However, even with their improved strategy, they were still failing to equalize the match because of the presence of one particular player. And that player was Akamasa Nakahara. Monster in aerial duel, he was clearing every ball away. Just 1 minute before the end of the first half, after the attack of Kawasaki failed, Yushir sent a through ball to their right attacking midfielder. That right midfielder in turn played a through ball to Takumi, who's also known as one of the fastest players in the league. This could be very dangerous. If Takumi gets hold of that ball, then Aomori might get a goal back. Making use of his quick feet, Takumi was sprinting towards the ball at almost 31 km/h speed. And even though Nakahara and Minato were way ahead of Takumi, judging by their speed, it seemed like Takumi would reach the ball ahead of Minato and Nakahara. And just like the three of them, Shun was also sprinting toward the ball. Contesting for the ball, all four of them were trying their best to reach the ball before anyone else. However, after a few short breaths, the contest was won by Takumi. Witnessing the ball on the feet of Takumi and seeing both of his teammates still chasing after Takumi, Shun had no other choice but to defend the ball all by himself. And since Shun was about few steps out of the penalty box, he retracted few steps to get inside the penalty box so that he could use his hands. After all, unlike other players, he wasn't good at defending. Despite being an exceptional keeper, he lacked when it came to defending without using his hands. And thus, to increase his chances of defending, he returned back to the penalty box. However, even doing so, he never looked away from the ball. Cautiously retreating, he was prepared for any long shots. Takumi too didn't try to take a long shot. Instead, he dribbled the ball forward to increase his chances of scoring. And as Takumi got closer to Shun, he stretched his leg to shoot. And as Takumi stretched his leg, Shun dived. But just as Shun dived, Takumi tapped the ball lightly and faked a shot. From the very beginning, when he stretched his leg, he wasn't planning on making a shot. He was only trying to deceive Shun. After deceiving Shun by faking a shot, Takumi dribbled the ball opposite to Shun. He then kicked the ball towards the empty net. Gulo alo. Finally, Aomori has managed to tie the game at the final minute of the first half. Scoring the goal at 44th minute of the match, they had equalized the game. Almost for the entirety of first half, Takumi seemed like he was struggling. But despite struggling so much, he proved it that he only requires one chance to prove his worth. And while Takumi and his teammates were celebrating Takumi's goal, Shun, who was still lying on the ground, bit his tongue out of disappointment. Disappointed that he was tricked so easily, he wasn't even being able to lift himself up. Nakahara and Minato had almost the same expression as Shun. Squatting on the ground, with their chin lowered, they were panting heavily, totally speechless. Most of the players of Kawasaki were either sulking their head or looking at the sky while wiping their sweat. You may have caught me off guard some moments ago, but it'll be us who will win the game eventually. Walking close to Hiro, Takuto sneered. There was a bit of intimidation in his words. Hearing Takuto's words, Hiro lifted his gaze towards the face of Takuto. However, instead of acting irritated, Hiro smiled at him and left towards his side of the pitch. Takuto, who was expecting Hiro to lash out at him, was totally dumbfounded by Hiro's unusual reaction. Perplexingly staring at the back of Hiro, who was walking away, Takuto began to have several thoughts inside his head. Why did he smile? Is he some kind of psychopath who enjoys getting mocked?